Okay, after a enjoyable break, I guess, playing Resistanza over there. It's nice to get away. We're back here at Leipzig, and it's been a few days off, but we got to figure out what happened so far in this day, say. Because the map was clear at the beginning of the day, and then Army of Bohemia started coming on in pieces. Some of it up there, they got beaten back and are trying to recover enough to pull off the map, so that they pull off the map and maybe reposition with the rest of the army being separated like that by one of the big terrain slices in the map, although it's only over in that corner, made it impossible to cooperate. I tried to come around the edge again. I tried to support the coming around. It didn't happen. We got stymied once more. A bunch of forces came in from back here. This was sort of the main push of the Army of Bohemia, but Napoleon met it with the majority of his forces. In fact, MacDonald was set up here, and Marmont up there was in position, helped block that, but was also in position to throw into this. They look like they're being defeated heavily, but we just got a new string of reinforcements. But these are guys who were on the battlefield yesterday and got chased off, so they're a little bit beaten up. They haven't had the rest time that you would expect new units coming on to have, so they have not recuperated. Over here, two more corps from the Army of Bohemia came in here. One of the corps came in here and got chased back, and that's these guys here. They're about off the map. They're pretty much gone. Two more corps came in over here, and with the intention of assaulting the Old Guard in Lindenau. That didn't go very well, but the first Prussian Corps of the Army of Silesia has come in and taken their place there. And now it's a more even fight. This thing is beaten up. Liechtenstein is almost out of the battle. His corps is broken and whatnot. And then finally here, the rest of the Army of Silesia is coming in to challenge the French north of Leipzig. In both these cases, I feel like the French forces are sufficient to hold the line. And then I've sent MacDonald, who's been marching all over hell and creation, back that way to support fighting against the Army of Silesia, because I feel like I have more than enough facing the Army of Bohemia down here. There's one more corps coming in, St. Priest, Silesia, that's going to be again coming in way down there. Army of North and the Army of Poland are still lurking out there. There's a lot of coalition forces left to come in, but this defeating the coalition in detail so far is working very well. The key element to that was getting a start on the first couple days of the game, where the battle hadn't really reached full pitch yet. If Napoleon makes his move at that point, when the coalition is weaker, I feel like he has a huge advantage. Now, here on the third day, where the battle really heated up, I'm in a much, much better position than the historical situation. Napoleon essentially was doing okay in this and then ended up doing not so okay. Now he's doing very, very well. And is it well enough? I don't know. It depends on what your definition of the victory condition, which is to destroy the enemy army, really is. Any kind of formalization that I can make of that based on the way the rules, there's no rules for what destroying means, and anything that I can formalize to do that, I'm making up stuff, but it seems out of reach. If it's just look at the map at the end, think about it, and figure out who won, kind of the Dean Essig approach, you know, I can probably do that. But the actual goals, I doubt that anybody's going to reach those, because I'm looking at those as desperation morale across the majority of the army, whatever that means. That might be calculate up all the steps and just say, hey, did you get enough? Or it might be on a corps by corps basis, where you have to individually throw each corps into desperation morale. I don't know. The first one is the only one that allows the French to lose, because the Old Guard have no morale states. They're always perfectly fine to keep dying. But the ramp up is hard again. You know, not so much that I've forgotten rules, just the amount of effort in walking around the board and doing all the things that need to be done. So, gotten through the movement part. A little bit of the Cav battle is still going on. You can see a couple of Cav attacks way over there and over there. No counter charges happened at all. But everywhere else, the Cav is largely decreased. Here we've got forming some squares against a powerful Cav element of the Guards there. And there's some here, but largely overwhelmed them. They can do what these guys tried to do and try to break up the formation, etc. There just really isn't much there. There is a weakness in French Cav down here, though. I'm beginning to realize that, and I'm sending Nansudi over here where I'm okay. But even though I'm not formally writing rules for the Cav units, I felt like I needed to have Napoleon talk to Nansudi about shifting boards, basically, to that extent, rather than and again, I don't think this is right, because like basically what there is there's a rule in, I think, section 2 or 3, whichever one adds the command radius. No, whichever one adds the orders chits. So it's 3, where you don't need orders chits. You don't need to give orders to Cav units. But for orders value 4, and this applies to both of them really, they have initiative values, they have order acceptance values. I feel like they probably should be rolling a die or something. And they shouldn't just be free agents the way I've been playing them the last couple of games, but I don't really want to undo that. And in a sense, there's this weird unfair aspect because the coalition don't have Cav Corps. Instead, they have these integrated, crazy-ass corps like the Hesse Homburg or the Guards units or whatever, that, oh look, they're really big, they have a fair amount of infantry, a fair amount of artillery, and okay, I'm all right with that, and a whole bunch of Cav, like more Cav, and Wittgenstein as well. They have like as much Cav as some of these French Cav Corps do. And it's just like, what am I looking at here? And Liechtenstein's another one like it, and I assume this other light one is. Anyway, forces advancing here. Napoleon's actually heading down to chat with Victor. Kind of running out of orders for Victor. Once he chases these guys off the map, he needs orders. And, he can probably do with a rest or something, but... some routers heading off this way. Suham is filling in gaps here. This is turning into a crazy-ass mess with this sort of weird stalemate where Cav are just staring at each other, not doing anything. But I don't have an attack to support, and no one's attacking, so there's no need to defend. So it's kind of like, well, something could break open. You could get an advantage by throwing the Cav at the enemy. Do you really want to do that? Because what if it breaks the wrong way, which is not unlikely? Then you've opened up an opportunity for the enemy to exploit what you just did, whereas you had no plan to exploit it. So it's just really kind of throwing units together to see what happens, and that doesn't feel right. And then over here, the French are dressing their line a little bit. Although, actually, there's a column unit back there where the Italian guy, Gay or whatever, is present. The main fight here actually seems to be whether the Cav can completely bust up this artillery formation. If they can and they can recover, this is just doomed. I don't have, unless the Russian Cav can come around and prevent that, which is basically the thing. I kind of slightly won the Cav battle there, and that's why Nansudi is heading this way, is that Cav battle looked still in doubt when Napoleon used his precognition to see all the way over here. But it is beginning to look, well, not really precognition, clairvoyance. If he used precognition, you would have seen that the French would have won the Cav battle. And they had the slight advantage, but it wasn't absolute. And I figured, well, I got enough Cav way over there. But what I really didn't realize was what a Cav weakness I'm facing down here. And that's going to be obnoxious. However, I haven't brought Pujol in. He's coming in here to challenge these. Kellerman's not enough there. I know I'm just chattering. Really, the truth of the matter is, I know I don't want to do the fire combat yet, and I know I'm taking a break, but I feel like, oh man, this was so much effort. You know, this was like 4 turns of resistance. And it really is. I mean, it's like the amount of effort to play something like this is just so much bigger. And it was kind of a nice vacation to be away from it. I still got half the game left. 2 p.m. The Cav died going in here, but took out 2 artillery pieces with it. Here we had a bounce. Some fire that did not go in the Russians' favor. The French largely drove a couple of Russian units away. Over here, I think things were fairly inconclusive. We did drive a Prussians out from in here. And one of the problems is in the town area, nobody can shoot each other. Nothing can happen. Not much happening over here. Some firepower. That's about it. Choosing again not to melee because, hey, I get a full fire next time, you know? This is like the one hex I would have considered a melee maybe in. But we're also equivalent types of units, both, you know, melee 3 and fairly big and whatnot. There's just, do these get better? No. No, there's no advantage to column in this system at all. And that's just, you know, baked into the counters essentially. And I think some of that has to do with the abstraction between are you really in column or line? Who knows? You know, march column is something different, but like when you're deployed, it kind of doesn't make much difference, except the top unit takes all the fire. And that's the end of 2 p.m. French side. I don't know if I have the energy to do the coalition at this point. It's a pretty day. I kind of would like to do other things, and work is fatiguing. Although I made an attempt to do something both kind of healthy and useful, I couldn't keep up with it. And after a couple of minutes, came back in. But what do we got? Still trying to recover over there because of whatever. Trying to make some sense out of this mess, but it's collapsing. My orders are to try to reinforce things that are falling apart, and that's not good. And I really think that my orders ought to be to get the hell back off the map, because this is just going to be all the worse for me. Over here, continuing the attack, the Prussians, and that doesn't look good at all, as the Austrians are trying to recover what they can and incorporate their own attack orders if they ever get their units in place. And over here, the Russians don't feel terribly thrilled with what's going on up here either. Although we are unlimbering a bunch of guns and may actually soon have a definite artillery superiority. Right now it's pretty close. That's suitable. That's kind of fitting for the Russians. Although, so here's the thing. They may have more batteries, but the French batteries have more firepower. So, in general, so it's not gonna work out all that well anyhow. Think of anything exciting happened with the firepower, although we did eliminate some of the young guard up here. I think for the most part there wasn't a whole hell of a lot of combat. However, I decided to make, and this is why I forgot what happened in the firepower, because even though it was just 10 minutes ago or whatever, it's hard to keep track of everything. I didn't take a break in between, it's just calculating all of these. I had to check, I made a check that I haven't made in a long time, which is on the core demoralizations. And what did we have? Well, both of the French Young Guard Corps are demoralized, and so some of their troops took off. And Hesse Homburg and his reserve is demoralized, and the Russians have joined the Prussians in demoralization at this point. I'd forgotten the Prussians were demoralized. They've been holding up better than they should. Also, Lareston hit demoralization. Most of these were pretty close. May have even just happened this turn. There's at least one that I think the Lareston one, but that I suspect happened earlier, and maybe the Hesse Homburg as well, and the Russian Guard. The Russian Guard is fucked up because it's got huge numbers. This is all Russian Guard. Okay. The Prussian Guard is down to here, I think, and I think that's it. And I may not actually be demoralized because I think I counted these guys in, but these guys are Russian, so they're part of the Russian Guard. So just the way the sheets are organized made this more difficult. But what it means is both armies are kind of crawling to a halt here. And that makes sense. About a half day of fighting continuously will do that to you. What do I have left here? Well, I have the beaten up guys who are not in great shape from last time, Kleist and Wittgenstein. I think they're probably still demoralized because they couldn't recover. I've got Victor. Augureau, I think, went over earlier. Marmont up there, but he's kind of in reserve. McDonald, who's heading the other way. And things over here are beginning to look ugly too. So like York is getting close. The two Russians over there are getting close. This is not going to keep fighting the way it is for much longer before somebody's going to have to back off in one way or another. The French army up here is pretty much worn out, and so is its opponent, and they may both fall into a rest position because it's harder to attack than it is to defend. The attacker has to undergo fire and potential morale checks first. But, you know, these are guard, man. Of course, so are these. But, you know, they probably aren't going to fail. They still have morale equal to pretty good units, line units at least. So they could keep fighting conceivably if I want to wear them down to nothingness, which maybe the French want to, because I don't know, you know, I kind of have to defeat this before more forces show up. Yeah. Might be worth trying to commit Marmont there. What is Napoleon up to? Oh, he was going to give orders to Victor, who doesn't have orders, and maybe I either have to roll initiative or do something else. Anyway, that puts us to 2:30, and I'm fatigued as hell, and certainly not going to do another one today. I think I'm going to... That's my fridge. It does that fairly regularly, about once an hour, every 20 minutes sometimes. It's a sign that something's wrong with it, but it's been wrong with it all along, and the cost of repair or replacement is too high for just it's making a knocking noise. The thing is, though, it's a sign that it will go out at some time, and boy, that'll suck. I don't know what the hell I'll do. Anyway, I don't feel capable of handling anything anymore in life. I really don't. Everything is too challenging now for me. All right, French 230 movement partway through. Again, too much to handle in one bite. We had some more cavalry duel going on. A couple of substantial charges there. One that got through to hit some disordered infantry. Well, we disordered them when they couldn't form square. Let's see. A little bit more trying to make the line make some sense as troops are sliding behind it because the road is no longer safe with those Russians up there. And over here, Suham is dispatching more forces as the Austrians are outflanking over here to the defense. I don't know to what degree I can extend out to defend the line, but yeah, orders are relative. Even in NBS, orders are kind of a murky subject, and here they're so loosely handled that I feel like I should be able to extend my defensive line if that looks locally applicable. It's hard to tell under different situations, but here it feels like the local command should be able to make that decision. And I got an A right there, man. McDonald and I can't even remember his name. Nansudi. Pushing further to get to that eastern flank, although it seems like it's holding up well enough. Over here, Napoleon decided to write orders to Victor so that he can go up. He's going to try to commit Marmont. He's really a little hesitant about the fact that all the gas seems to have gone out of the corps that I have assigned to finishing off the Army of Bohemia. I think I need to do that, and an entry late in the day by Marmont should allow me to get some of that. I may not be in the position I want to be in for tomorrow, though. I kind of like defending that flank up there, and now that might cause me some ugly problems where you have to march real fast, like not take breaths. It's the equivalent to forced march in this game. And it works really well. I like it. But to get into some kind of defensive position that I'm going to have to get into, which may make me more fatigued than I want to be. And who knows, Marmont may be too far away to have much effect. Meanwhile, a little bit of pressure against this disordered cav here. We're going to try to eliminate that. And otherwise pushing into the crotch still and up in the north where, yeah, sure, the Young Guard are a little beaten up, but they're facing beaten up stuff, and we're significantly better still. We should be able to crack that line. And who knows, if I hold off and don't write orders to Marmont and walk up to talk to him, things might be cleaner by then, and Napoleon might have an idea that, maybe I don't want to talk to him anymore. That again, though, is, yeah, I don't mind so much in this distance, but in the overall distance of the map, by combining everything under one command system, the distances involved may be too large for Napoleon to be writing orders to these subgroups, which is why there's separate commanders. And that all makes sense. But here's the thing. All three of the French commanders have the God's eye view. They know what's going on. They're getting radio reports from the balloons up there or whatever, you know, I don't know. Napoleon's able to mentally meld with them. So there's really no easy way for these big, really large battlefields to express the commands in the way that they fit better in somewhat smaller battlefields. All the same, for this system at least, I really, really like these much, much larger battlefields. And I gotta say, I kind of felt the same with the CWB NBS series as well. And that's less to do, I mean, I gotta tell you, Terrible Swift Sword was so exciting to me compared to Wilson's Creek and Pea Ridge, which I had before that. And certainly then Stonewall, just because of the scope of the battle. It's so amazing for me to see these huge, huge distances covered on a tactical level. It's very exciting to me. The God's Eye View part is a small payment to handle it. That could be addressed with the one player per command type of situation. So, you know, sure, you could have the orders rules, the level 5 orders rules in play for the whole map, where, I don't know, you know, how many fucking corps are there? You know, you'd need like 40 people to do it all, right? Or you could have, and I think this is very reasonable for this size game. For the bigger games, you could certainly do that, but it also kind of doesn't really work. Like, do you really want 6 people gathered around with each of them controlling like a few counters? That reminds me of some of the minis games I've played in, where I'm like, oh look, I have, you know, two formations. Great. What am I going to do with this? You know, I can't come up with tactical plans on my own. All I can really do is push my units forward and sometimes maybe take advantage of an opportunity or whatever. It doesn't really feel like you have a lot of control, but it does take away that godlike control. It does a great job on it, actually, especially if you don't let people talk and only pass written orders unless they're with each other. But it's not a lot of fun to play just a few counters. But here, very clearly, there's a command over there, there's a command over here, and there's a command over here. And then there's an overall command that's dispatching, you know, reserve forces, pretty much. And that's what Napoleon should be doing, I think. Kind of what he's doing. And that feels kind of right. You know, there's constant communication going back and forth. Now, that would be about the right level of players for this, and that's the number of army commanders that you have on the board. Each army commander would be its own player. I feel like that's better than the level 5 rules, just for the honest situation that this is a game designed for a system that's designed for one player to play each side. In the smaller games, and it really is comfortable at that level, but I don't know. It would help prevent, you know, too much of the God view of the situation. One person who's in charge of dispatching the overall command situation, but people who are focused on moving their specific units in the area where they're actually at. The problem with that, of course, is, well, you need variable numbers of people, right? Right at the early game, there were really just 2 players. And now there's 1, 2, 3 per side, but that doesn't divide up nicely by army. So like the coalition, there's some army of Bohemia mixed in with army of Silesia. Yeah, I wouldn't mind if Silesia here takes that over, but shouldn't they should they really be in communication across that bad terrain there? Can they see what's going on at all? I don't know. And so it almost feels to me like the battle has separated into, 4 different sectors of the battle, one of which is completely quiet, which can happen. I don't know. Yeah, I'm chatting instead of doing firing because I'm pretty sure I can't do the firing right now. Okay, finished the firing and whatnot. So I gotta move this. This may be it for today. Just a half turn. I got dancing tonight. You're used to my excuses by now. Let's see, got a couple of units shot up back here. A couple of French cav got hit by this artillery and finally disintegrated. So the cav battle is beginning to look a little less clearly in favor of the French. However, I've got Nansudi coming, so don't think that life is easy. Good thing I decided he would be necessary there, right? It's so hard to predict what's going to happen. It looked like the French cav under Latour or whatever was going to just clean up down there. Now it's not such an obvious facet. Yeah, I think the Prussians suffered a little bit of hurt here. Over here, not much changed. Though we did take that gun out, chose not to assault it because, again, we have a 50-50 chance of finishing it off when it tries, if it tries to leave. And if it doesn't try to leave, either way. All right, and so that'll put us on the Austrian side. I may end up, waking up at a certain time today and being able to slip in some time, but I can't guarantee. It's starting to stay light, and that means that I might enjoy a walk through the park instead of my normal pathway to my dancing. My nap was short enough, and the day has turned not so pretty. A little chillier too. It's close to 60, but that I don't really want to go out a little early, so started it up, fired off a couple of cav charges, and that's all I'm at, where I'm reporting on here. Launched one here. I don't know where he ended up. That's not him. He ended up, these guys, being blown after a failure. Don't have any over there, but I had one here that bounced. Pretty much those were all countercharged and stopped, sometimes at pain for the countercharger. Similarly here, the Russians are hitting some unable to react cav, but I also launched someone over here, and I think he disintegrated under fire, trying to get out of there. He was in a situation where he was trying to hit these things. I don't know why. But I didn't want to suffer artillery fire for like a couple of rounds, so it seemed reasonable to try to get out of there, and the cav charge seemed like a good chance at it, as good as any other. All right, on to the movement for the coalition. We're almost at the point of getting St. Priest in another corps to come in there, but of course we got reserves going up to the area north of Leipzig. And on it goes. We got Austrian units sneaking up behind the enemy lines. They fought their way out, destroyed the unit that was in their way, and the French had advanced thinking, well, we got him kind of tied down. He's going to disintegrate. Those are pretty good units, probably Jaegers. No, Grenzers. But over here, threat of cav forced a couple of squares. But even as I try to push more units in, these are damaged units that were hit hard on the first day, and that were hit hard on the second day too, and that were chased off the map twice now. No, they never appeared on the second day. I think, I don't know. No, because I have no idea anymore. But they've been used badly in the previous incarnations, and they're trying to make their way across. There's such a traffic jam here. Meanwhile, the French are collapsing whatever defensible position there was there. I really think Schwarzenberg should be giving the orders pretty soon to get off the map. But he's busy trying to rally stuff to prevent too much damage from happening just from sort of the natural withdrawal that, you know, disorganized troops are going to face, because the advancing troops are going to either rout them or something else horrible is going to happen. So we don't want that to happen. Over here, you know, I don't see the Prussians breaking through, but this is probably the best part of the line for the coalition overall. I've got Gulay beginning to rally some of his forces, Liechtenstein as well, and we might be able to fight this to a draw. Unfortunately, over here, because Blucher's over there, we have no one to give overall orders here, so we'd be relying on initiative. But again, this is failing. You can see those counter-cav attempts didn't do a hell of a lot. They may have evened things up, but we're not making ground up here. And I feel like the coalition has to find some place to park and try to recover. And the one thing that I'm not allowing is I'm not allowing you to recover off map. You know, I mean, maybe if you took a whole day off or something, you would get some like nighttime recovery rules or whatever, but or even just half a day or whatever. But the truth is, getting knocked off the map is just a bad thing. Not as bad as it would be by the base rules, which is you're destroyed. But if we were playing by that, I could call this as a French win already. That's not clear because of the huge quantity of forces that the coalition still can bring to bear. And the fact that, you know, if I keep the French fighting on a number of fronts, they don't get that recovery chance. So if I fall back, the French will get a chance to recover their forces. But here's the thing. If they don't pursue, if they don't knock me off the map, the coalition gets a chance to recover its forces as well. So, you know, it's kind of like this mixed bag. I really want the French to win this. And to win this, they pretty much have to keep pressing. And that's why Napoleon's going up to talk to Marmont. And what is that? That puts us to like 3 p.m. We've got St. Priest coming in. That's more fresh troops. Unfortunately, if it's that meat grinder, it is not pleasant. And Blucher is so good at rallying that I kind of don't want to send him up there to give orders. He could write orders to St. Priest. But my assumption is St. Priest's orders are like Langeron and Ostensacken to just try to break that line. And I don't know if that line's breakable. But if I'm not going to withdraw, I probably ought to send him in. I could withdraw by default. I've been fighting enough rounds that I could just pull back. But that's the whole thing, is like, well, it would be nice if I could cause enough damage there. I just don't know. I'm left with this, well, do I want to preserve units? Can I? I could probably preserve them in the areas that I'm fighting that I'm not doing too badly. Like, I can't see the French launching an attack here without MacDonald being up there. And probably not even then. I can't see the French attacking here with what they've got, no matter what. So, yeah. Simply because it just doesn't make strategic sense for them to make any kind of attack here. This is, if they want to recover this, they probably want to recover that stuff. This is the one place where the French don't want to recover their forces. They want to cause as much pain as possible to the enemy, but you know, they're taking losses, and I'm babbling too much. Today, obviously it's a Saturday, and I don't know how much more I'm going to get in than this half turn. I'm at the, looks like 3 o'clock turn here, where St. Priest is going to come in, but we had a few doing the movement up to the movement phase for the French. Some new orders being prepared for Marmont. Napoleon went to go talk to him about that. I'm going to need him to reinforce over here. I've talked about that in some detail. Let's see. Advances along here. A couple of cav charges. One which was successful in defeating its countercharge, as it were. Another one over here that's still underway. Keeping a square over there. I don't know why. I could have pushed this forward up to here and tried to push more focus against the Prussians, but the problem is I'm susceptible to a cav charge. But these guys are too. You know, I'm not really safe. They'll probably be able to make square, although because those units are a little demoralized at this point, the young guard there, that's not great. Victor got his orders and said, yeah, I'm not sure what I want to do about these. So next turn we'll find out what's up with that. Then Sudi rested. MacDonald moved forward here. Muddling about, actually came out from the town in order to try to roll up this flank and bring my power around, because if they're going to extend this way, we're going to try to break the advantage that they have over there. I don't know what Murat's doing. He probably should go talk to someone or do something. But the defense here is solidifying, and it really looks like the Russians are in a whole heap of trouble. There was some cav action back here, wasn't there? No. Latour decided it was not a good idea to do anything this turn, other than rest. And since he's going to get fired on, probably, almost certainly, he could only rest 1 point. But if he did any charges, it would have thrown him into a worse morale state, and I did not want to face that. You know, Murat maybe wants to catch up to those guys. It's a long walk. But he's fast. All right. I need to take a little bit of a break before I do the fire phase. And again, it's late enough in the day. I'm already using a light that I don't think I'm going to get to the coalition turn. But, I mean, I can play in the dark. I just generally don't want to. And there's a certain laziness to my Saturdays. And, oh, fuck. Forgot my cap charge. Okay, I'll be back. That charge into the rear of the light guard, well, of various types cav, was completely successful and destroyed units, caused some opportunity fire that caused more kills. Things are really breaking apart along the line here for the coalition. I gotta get off the board. I keep saying that. Schwarzenberg doesn't give the orders, but we're gonna get driven off the board if we don't leave. Over here, not a whole hell of a lot, although we did blow a few holes in the Prussian line, and then over here, the Russian line is collapsing, as you can see. It looks like failure on all fronts for the coalition. The bright side, it's success on all fronts for Napoleon. Yeah, I feel like we have to leave the map again. But more troops make this work better. God, I really don't know. But certainly being able to bring units on, rest them while other units are pursuing the attack, and then bring reserves up again and again. That might work. Right now it seems like Napoleon is invincible, but he's only facing 2 of the 4 armies. Now, granted, he's facing the 2 big ones. Fine tradition of more babble, less play, which I got a lone turkey wandering down the street, I just noticed, but all right, to the game. I got more, but so I have been, not quite to the game, I've been not playing for a couple of days. Saturday, I think I got a turn in. Sunday, I did not. I picked up or grabbed one of the old video games that I've got hanging around that I hadn't played, and got hooked enough in it that, like, I didn't want to get away. And just, you know, like a 2004 RPG that could have been written in 95, except the graphics are a little fancier, you know. But it was kind of fun. Anyway, what is going on? You know, the retreat calls have gone up. I'm pulling those guys out. They succeeded in an initiative roll to get off the map. I've been waiting. I'm like, what happens if, like, I don't make the 12 p.m. or whatever? Fuck it, just get them off the map. Don't worry about trying to recover the last couple of points. Because the calls are going up here as well. In particular, Hesse-Homburg blew their orders away and is falling back a little bit, which they have to do anyway, but Schwarzenberg's going to go talk to them. The Imperial Guard, a lot of the disordered stuff is pushing back, trying to get away. Kleist has thrown his forces up, joining with a little bit of the Guard. The idea here is to provide some sort of barrier and some kind of defense there. So I can follow Kleist's orders and still provide that, sort of, kind of. He's heading all this way when he's supposed to be going this way, I think. But no, maybe that's right. Maybe that's right. Wittgenstein is just sitting there like, you got to be kidding me. I'm going to defend this against the South, and they're coming from that way? Come on, man. I got to rearrange some people. I see Wittgenstein is kicking around over here. He probably should be sitting on top of something he could rally. Yeah, I don't see anything he could rally. So he'll sit with those cav. They're not his, but... over here, similarly, both Liechtenstein and Gulai rolled initiatives. They could have just canceled their orders, but they rolled initiatives to get the fuck out of town. The goal, try to get closer to the rest of the army of Bohemia. And this is just goofy, you know. I've got Army of Bohemia spread from there to there with a big hole here, although I had units come in from there. I got to do something and get them on one axis. Now, there's a problem with that, which is that there aren't a lot of roads here, but I think I'm going to be pulling more people back in through Pegau and down here, and fuck this whole section here. Because Blücher is supposed to go talk to York, and again, I failed to pay attention to the rallying side of this, but Blücher's supposed to talk to York, and that guy probably needs to do something other than what he's doing. And I set up a line of artillery here to help provide some something for me to fall back on. I've got these calves stuck up here. That's kind of obnoxious. I don't know what to do about that. But Blucher's going to tell York to go back and join the army of Silesia over here. And I mean, we get units routing that way anyway. And likewise, both Langeron and Austin just canceled their orders. They've been at it enough. They're going to fall back. Probably not off the board. They don't have orders to do that, and that's fine. I've got St. Priest coming on, and of course, York is going to be joining. And Blucher's kind of, it is so like him to just abandon the Russians and go off and do his own thing. So, but yeah, this is hopeless. And again, a couple of artillery to try to cover things. I did a cav charge over there as well. The losses have just mounted way too high. And that is basically the end of the coalition attack posture for this day. I still have to do the firing and everything, but I like to get a little bit of, I took a nap today, but I like to get a little bit of rest in between portions of a turn because it fatigues me to do a whole half turn. Oh shit, I got more troops oh God. Yeah, I got another column coming in too, but I gotta go check my mail. Right, so there's St. Priest coming on. Nothing too exciting there. You can see after rallies and whatnot, this was a bounce. The Russians, you know, are in a largely disorganized retreat. It's not the worst place on the board over here. The Prussians are still in relatively good order, so, you know, they're holding a little bit of the back door open, but again, everything's kind of running at once. And if I was playing with the modern version of the Army morale rules, all these disorganized forces would be counting against, and maybe the old one as well, would be counting against their core, which means these would be in worse position than they're already showing, and we might have desperation morale over on the Austrians there. Here it's a rout. I mean, it really is. This is what a rout looks like. And yes, I'm holding the back door here. It would be the same here if the Prussians hadn't intervened in that. But it has come at a cost. I think I've mentioned this before, but take a look. Here's the old guard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 steps left. They don't leave. They just kind of laugh everything off. This is the only unit in the old guard that has any morale reduction at all. It gets a 1-point reduction when it's down to 1 strength point, which it is now. But the young guard, especially Oudinot, is pretty beaten up too. And conversely, the Russian and Prussian guards, especially the Russians, are just smashed all to hell. And the closest thing the Austrians have to anything like a guard is their reserve, which has a lot of good quality grenadiers and everything. And that's what's routing. So yeah, this is, and you know, to some extent that may be why when I'm seeing this much disorganization, I feel like the battle's lost, you know. These armies are not in desperation morale, though. And by the way I've kind of fiddled with the rules, etc. on this, and there's no off map or anything normally, they're going to be able to just keep coming back and coming back. as long as they aren't pushed to that desperation morale, I guess. I guess at that point, a corps is just, yeah, fuck this, man, we're out of it. But nobody's pushed that far yet. And, you know, this is really the third real day of fighting. Now, historically, this was the first big day of fighting. So there's a lot less lasting power for a lot of the corps that are out there. And also using up all the guard units this early. Now, anything that still has counters, because of the fatigue recovery rolls, can incorporate other units very, very well. Can incorporate stragglers. Who knows where those stragglers come from? Not necessarily the units that are left on the board. Which, you know, in the case of, well, one of the nice things that I mentioned is the guard units are so small that they kind of don't straggle. You put them in the line and they kind of disintegrate eventually if they're put under any real pressure. And I guess that's kind of, in some ways, that's kind of the what my hand-wavy explanation of why I don't have a guard commitment roll is in this. You know, this army is going to be a lot worse without the guard, and all the armies are kind of without the guard at this point. I mean, you can just see, that's all French guard in there. And that's a lot of Russian guard in there. So, yeah, it's not a pretty outcome at all. But yeah, part of what I was saying is, you know, it's kind of discouraging. I feel like I've fought the battle. It's come to pretty much its conclusion. There's room for more battle, though. You know, when I played the 7 days scenario, McClellan left early. I don't know what he got, probably a draw or something. But it was kind of like, well, we did it in only 3 or 4 days of battle. I think it was 4 days of game. One of the days had very few battles at all. And it felt kind of funny to me, like felt too condensed. And this is feeling that same way, but there's still a lot coming on. And, you know, on the bright side for the French, they can rest up a lot of their forces, except a lot of their forces have orders to go marching here, there, and hither, and won't get that time now. In particular there, I'm looking at McDonald, who doesn't have, he didn't take a lot of hits. He may be, yeah, he's like pristine. So it doesn't hurt me to move McDonald. Nansudi is pristine. Marmont got orders. He's doing what I wanted McDonald to do, but I needed McDonald over there because that was looking a little frightening. So now Marmont's going to come down in this direction. And, well, you know, if the coalition's out of there already, that's a wasted march. And me leaving a position I kind of wanted to be in. I don't know, you know, precisely where the enemy forces are, but I think some of the I would think the army of Poland is somewhere up there, and the army of the North, well, I think so too, and there's a big gaping hole in the center now. First of all, I screwed up with, it's easy to screw up when you're not paying much attention and playing, you know, a half turn in 2 days or whatever. I screwed up in the orders to Victor. They shouldn't have arrived last turn. They should have arrived this turn. I'm implementing them as though that's the case. I already rolled, so that takes effect. Napoleon has given orders to Marmont to sweep down. Okay. I also set up, and this is really why I'm on the video before I've done anything. That's the entirety of the reinforcements for the 17th. 1 corps on each side. The corps for the Austrians is part of the Army of Bohemia, and it comes in down here. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I really don't. That makes me feel better about Marmont heading down there's nothing pressing in the morning or at all tomorrow coming from the north. It also leaves me with a big question of what the fuck I'm gonna do with these armies. Now, Army of Silesia can probably encamp back there as long as more forces aren't arrayed against it. Really, the stuff there, it's not that beaten up, but it's also not that big. McDonald is big, so he can probably deal them some blows, but maybe not chase them off the map. But as long as this situation exists against the Army of Bohemia, I don't see bringing them on the map, you know, if they leave, and that's what I'm planning on doing. And if that's the case, what are they going to do? Maybe swing their axis above the Universitas hulls and try to probe up there. But again, the French are going to be able to fling a force that's larger, that's sitting, you know, here and perhaps recovering. We shall see. I got to make those big decisions as night comes closer. But you know, it's already 3:30. Night comes what? At 6. Withdrawals or routes taking place. Cavalry pursuit makes sense. So Pujol launching a bunch of charges here. One of them got countered by Wittgenstein. What he's doing commanding those cav, well, he rallied them. Nothing up in the north here. It was just Pujol coming through here. Nothing down here in the south. There's no cav. Over here, the French have no cav, and they're also facing something. I mean, I would hit it if I had it, but Sebastiani is stuck in the marsh. And, you know, I hope he's been resting rather than just twiddling his thumbs. But over here, it made sense to launch charges, and we got one against the guns here. These guys created a square, and one against some disordered units. I didn't want to hit this. These guys are going to move up to try to scare them away. Although we're getting close to fatigue levels, so again, you know, we rested for a point. Now we got it back. At some point or another, we just have to bite the bullet and chase that stuff down while we still can before it gets away and reforms. And yeah, my voice, crap keeps collecting in my throat. Still not completely well. It's been a while. It's been more than a month, and this shit hadn't happened to me. I've been several years free of it since I moved to Eugene, but I used to have something kind of like this happen in Phoenix regularly. So maybe I'm finally getting used to the pollen in the air and everything and become allergic to it. Something else that's a little weird. Once troops are even just disorganized, certainly routing, I've added some issues to the game by like the recovery from route roll, which is not the highly experimental, that's the fatigue roll. But by adding that option, I've made routed units in the same category. But disordered units would always be in this category, where sending the cav to pursue them is a dangerous task. Now, I'm not saying that the cav should never get hurt chasing down routers, but I'm on the 4-to-1 table or something, and it's still possible to take an injury with the cav. And in fact, it's possible to just disorder the unit again, which routes it or whatever. Which, again, if it's not this big a battle, isn't a bad thing. It probably, routed units probably aren't coming back anytime soon. I've seen, when a force like this routes, the battle's over, right? But because of the size of this campaign and the number of days that that it undergoes. That's kind of an issue. So it's like, do you really want to use your cav up chasing down the routers? You know, you could put it down to like, I don't think the Napoleonics face this very often, but you could put it down to they went chasing off after and just, you know, went and found a supply camp or something. But I don't think that's very likely when there's this big a mass of force. It's not like they're all routing off the board. And also, the troops were a little better disciplined at this time point. So, yeah, I'm just not buying that that the level of casualties that I see from that is appropriate. I'm trying to remember, there was something else. This is one of those cases where I feel like I'm being dissuaded. Oh, I know what, melee. Yeah, the fatigue rules especially dissuade melee. Now those are highly experimental, fine. But the standard rules dissuade using your cav to pursue the enemy and finish them off in a retreat. And if you think about it, if I like take a 1-to-1 loss against the infantry, the cav's more valuable, and that's just not a fair trade. So, yeah, pursuing retreating cav might make sense, but retreating infantry, that really doesn't make sense. I don't know. Yeah, again, the system has some real like fraying around the edges. That's for sure. So what I do every time I play a half turn or whatever is this section of the board gets handled because I got to move the papers completely before anything else gets handled. Now I forgot to do the rallying checks, didn't I? Nope, I did them. All right, and then I'm going to do the rest of the board at once. Now, that's not exactly the case. So what happens is I do my firing, defensive fire coming around, offensive fire, and then I pause and do the rest of the turn over here, and then do the offensive fire up there. Which, it's just crazy, but you know, it's what works to keep me from getting too much exercise while playing. Looks like the Russian or Silesian army, Russian corps, 2 corps failed and are essentially routing here. I think I kind of saw that before. Those are units that aren't even badly hurt. They're just not great morale and bad stuff happened to them trying to attack. Over here, well, the Imperial Guard keeps disintegrating. Another big unit went away, and there's basically almost nothing left. There's just 2 units and an artillery. There's the artillery. One of the units is here. I guess the other, yeah, it's under there. 1 unit that's of any reasonable size. I've destroyed the Imperial Guard. Great. And I mean that as Napoleon. You know, you commit them to defend a location, they're going to hold it, but, yeah. Over here, some shots took out some of the fringe units. Some of this was Wittgenstein, some of it's Guard. The Cav charges, again, more problems with them. This force hit, routed a unit, took a hit, slammed into this, and got hurt there. Did some damage, but again, just, you know, hitting. Part of the problem there is I ran into something I didn't want to, but I don't look everything up. So like I went charging through some forces and I'm like, oh, well, we'll hit these. And once I looked up the numbers, I'm like, oh, I didn't want to do that. Screw it. You know, they're Cav, they're excited. It's hard to pull them back after they smash through something. But we eliminated whatever the hell was back there from Hesse Homburg. Most of this is routing, but there is still a center of Kleist and a little bit of Wittgenstein, and there's some guards mixed in there too, that's holding up. One thing that I'm noticing is how hard it is once units start getting to that demoralized level to rally any of them. Like, these things that are battered, and this includes the French, are not really in condition to keep fighting. I don't think the French, like, tomorrow, there's not a lot to happen, right? But unless I recover a lot of losses, the French are not going to be able to take the offensive again with the forces pretty much on this side of the board. Victor's in good shape. Marmont's in good shape. The rest of them, I need to pull them back and find them a happy place, a safe space. Likewise, over here, I think the French did okay. Over here, Souham's all right, to tell you the truth, but the old guard is gone. All the young guard is so battered that they need a rest. So there might be some interest tomorrow. I'm finding it hard to maintain my interest in playing, just as a matter of, I don't know. There's always this hard space that happens at the end or sometime in the middle of these bigger games where it's like, how am I going to make it? And, you know, but I expect there's going to be at least some long period, certainly the nighttime, of not a lot of action happening that have to be coming up soon. You know, these forces can't continue pressing. The French, they're getting repulsed when they face any kind of resistance. These have to leave the board if they are pressed. Over here, I don't think I can make any advances. Over here, I don't know. I really don't know, because McDonald's a big fresh force. He might be able to march forward. It might be worth it, but there is a fresh Russian corps in play. And I could certainly throw, who is it? Bertrand, I think, is up there. I could throw Bertrand into the fight as well. I don't know where Rainier comes in. Kind of curious about that. Not until tomorrow morning, but what if? I wonder what that is actually. Wait. Yeah, these are troops that I think are in the box. Okay. Tauscha map 3, that's going to be up there. Huh. Just trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do, you know, in terms of positioning things and everything. So as I compromise, neglecting whatever I need to do, as well as the healthy and perhaps better aspects of taking a walk, but on the other hand, also avoiding playing a video game. I gotta say, I finished the one, but started another one last night. But it's not as enthralling, so that's cool. And I may quit it. It's done by some of the people who did the original Fallout. It's from 2001, and it's just too clunky, sort of this steampunk with magic thing, and I don't know how I feel about it. It's too complex for me. But I do start off the coalition turn here, and there's interesting comparisons with the Cav battles on both sides. So for example, here, I've got a couple of Cav, but by not charging, and I could charge, but by not charging, I'm keeping the door open for these guys to move. I'm holding this at bay. I saw that as valuable. Over here, geez. Oh, I actually probably want to launch a charge with those guys, and I haven't done so, to scare up these infantry into square. But over here we had, and I'll get back to that, but over here we had a different situation where the Allies ended up charging Pujol here and sending him back, which is cool. It was basically an equal fight. But here I also launched a charge because I need to open the door up. It's not holding the door, I need to push them back. And I didn't succeed in doing so, which is going to be kind of weird. I think it means this line has to stay kind of a line and hope to break up the rest of the guard units. Young guard there. But yeah, I'll get to that one. I just wanted to point out that differentiation. It's just kind of weird. It's like, what do you use the Cav for? What do you not use them for? Where is just the existence of the Cav good enough, even though they've got something they could charge? We just sent one unit and managed to throw 2 units into square, which was pretty much the goal, but we found one that's a target of opportunity. If I send another force in, I might send more Cav in simply because I don't have as much strength as I want to. But the thing I had to mention, that I had to look up a rule on this, which is, hey, the Cav are sitting there in the woods. Can they actually convert to line and make a charge? Turns out they can, at least under the newest edition of the rules. I assume all along there's a special case for it. But I couldn't remember that. I knew that it was probably covered. There's a lot of things like that that aren't, and I would be left scratching my head with, well, could I charge from there or not? I'm glad that that's in there. End of, what, 3:30, going into 4. The route continues. Austrians out of there. Over here, you can see hulls being created. That's by fire, not by a successful withdrawal. That was a rear guard unit that is all the same thing over here. The Cav actually got dissolved before it could make its charge on these poor fellas. The forces falling back here, trying to create, you know, a line that we can fall back behind. And similarly over here, there's no real pursuit. The only pursuit is Latour's Cav, and that's so fatigued that we'll probably just stare down those Russian Cav, just like they want us to, and watch the Russian forces pull back. I think Army of Silesia is going to be able to stay on the map. I think everything else is going to make its way off. I've probably said that before. I don't know if I have more gumption in me. A little earlier, when I started the firing and everything, I thought about that walk. Hey, turkeys. Yeah, I take too much pleasure in these things. Especially, you know, I didn't feel as much need to talk about like the animal life and everything, but I've got no one else to share it with but you guys now. So it becomes more of a, oh look, there's something there. Those are turkeys. Yeah, sometimes there's chickens down there, the ones I chased down the road. There's a lot of stuff moving around, but it feels like the battle is slowing down enough that it's becoming more manageable again. We got Marmont starting to march down. Mortier continuing his push, pushing rather hard actually. He's actually fatigued at this point. Oudinot and who's here? Auguero? Yeah. Holding the line in the corner here. Lauriston and Victor. Victor still hasn't gotten his orders underway. Lauriston doesn't have a path through, so his orders are kind of to keep things linked, which there's nothing really for him to do. His orders are contingent on what Victor and Auguero do, which isn't much right now. I'll be filling in the gap between them when Victor moves forward, though. Over here, I don't feel like Suham has orders to go charging out, but I'm still sweeping forward. This may be taking my orders too far. I switched my orders to defend the town, and now I'm doing something kind of like what the original orders were. I don't know, but I sent Nay to go chat with him and maybe have some reasonable words. I think we don't want to push because we're facing a larger force. York is bigger than Suham's force. And nothing really over here. I actually fell back a little bit in order to reposition myself on my the defensive positions I had taken up. Things that this system does show very nicely. You know, a lot of times there's little scrubby stuff around the edges I don't like. But it's the difference of the difficulty in withdrawing under pursuit, even light pursuit. Over here, I'm having to, some of it has to do with the orders I've got, etc. But I'm having to deploy and inch my way away, see if my units can hold up long enough. Those fresher units will help there. Over here, and especially over there though, there isn't a lot of pursuit. There's a little bit here. They don't really have orders to pursue though, so this is something the coalition doesn't know. But if they pull away, Suham is, you know, already operating at a place where I was having questions. Could he be that far out? So he'd be abandoning, although Nay went to talk to him, didn't he? So we might find that he has different orders. Over here, though, very clearly, not just defensive orders, but no desire to push forward any further. And the Russians have largely been able to pull away, for whatever that's worth, you know. I mean, when you're being pursued, especially by infantry, because artillery have a hard job pursuing. They can get some plink shots on the end, but really they're not going to be a good pursuit force. And cavalry, the potential pain, first of all, there isn't that much of it for the most part. I mean, unless you got a cav corps ready to pursue. But also the potential pain involved in a cav pursuit is so much higher than in an infantry pursuit. Because in an infantry pursuit, if the enemy about faces and marches away, there's not much that can be done about it. You can just chase them. Let me just say, I said that completely wrong. You can just chase them, and they have no rear fire until they're disorganized. You may not be able to throw yourself into line formation or whatever, but you can get plink shots in their ass, and their disorganized units aren't going to move very fast. They're going to move 2 hexes when they're first disorganized, and after they start trying to rally, they can probably get 4 hexes out of it until they rout. Once they rout, then they run in earnest, in real earnest. But yeah, there's very little cost to pursuing with infantry. Fatigue, I guess. But the enemy's fatiguing themselves running away too. If instead they back away, as we're seeing, is even throwing units to the front here, and likewise here, kind of trying to back away and get out of there, well, you can move forward and throw your skirmishers ahead of you and get some plink shots just like you would with a chase, or since you were winning the battle to force them to withdraw, you can just press on pretty hard. And you will be moving faster. You'll be fatiguing them more if they try to back away. So another option is leapfrogging, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to do here, where a line is set up and then you turn and run and get behind that line, and now there's a defensive line that the pursuer has to face instead of the retreating units. And I don't know. We don't really have that here. Yeah, but anyway. I'm also trying to figure out that what the coalition's plan is for tomorrow, because things do not look good, and I may even just stay off the map. Of course, that pretty much lets all the French units to recover to full strength if I don't attack. And I would allow some kind of similar regrouping to be happening, I guess, on the coalition side. If they spend, like, you know, extra time off the map, they could do that. So far, I've only allowed the troop recovery to happen on map. I feel, you know, in a sense, it kind of makes some sense, because, hey, you know, if you leave the area too much, you're not going to be able to find those stragglers, and they just become permanently lost. But on the other hand, with how big this map is, hey, if I'm a little off the map here, and I'm not talking just a teeny bit where the French would attack, I'm talking, you know, a map or two off. Is that really that different from me being there or there? I don't know. I got to make a decision on that. But anyway, this was just the cav and the movement. I did one cav attack to create a couple of squares so I could get away with the Prussian units. And we got confusing stuff. One of the things that I've seen happening is that the facings get all sort of muddled up, especially in the light of a retreat. But really, just as the unit line breaks down, units will advance in and try to get some kind of edge. So there was a Prussian unit here that was getting a firing edge against this unit before it was in square. But it was facing this way, which meant the French could at almost any time march up and hit it in the ass. And it was just, there's silly stuff like that, where units are just really in a disorganized state, not the kind of linear stuff that you would hope to see most of the time, and that some other systems enforce a little better. NBS does not. It has the same problem. Anyway, I'm just babbling for no reason. Right, and after the fire going back and forth, not a lot of difference. The fire has gotten more and more sporadic over on that side of the board. Over here, the Prussians especially are still putting up quite a bit of resistance. There's a few interesting things there. First of all, those guard units. This may be a reason to use the melee table. Those tiny little, well, I don't know, those little guard units, if you can mass them together, get enough of a multiplier, it's possible to attack on here and have a very low chance of taking any losses, while inflicting heavy casualties of, you know, heavy impact on the enemy. Not necessarily heavy casualties, although if you get way up there, you can wipe out a huge stack that way. But if you're at 4-to-1, it's probably not that big a stack. However, the guard units have a high impact. You see a lot of 3s over there. But you're talking 3-to-2. You know, not when it's even size. So, but anyway, that's one thing, because what I'm seeing is, hey, the firepower, sure, the capability to stand is low for these other units, but, and the guard has better firepower, but still, these little guard units spread out trying to do a lot of work end up disintegrating, and the poster boy is over here with the old guard just gone, basically. Yeah. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah. As units break, it becomes almost impossible. Like, as they get demoralized and worse, it gets almost impossible to rally the units. Their morale for breaking, yeah, it's at -2. That's not great. For good units, though, the guard can hold as if it's line and stuff like that. But man, when you're looking at -5 to your morale, -2 for being disorganized, -2 for being demoralized, -1 because you're fatigued, because just about everything on the coalition side is fatigued. If you started out with an 8, which is pretty much line units, you need a 2 or a 3 to rally. If you're a conscript with a 6, you can't. If you're those shaky units with 7s, it's a 2. It's almost impossible, which is why everything's running off the map. Now again, if we were playing by the rules as written, those units would all have been gone multiple times, and this game would be over by far. Which, for good or ill, it feels pretty bad to me. But still, we've got the huge reinforcements coming. Also, taking a look at casualties. Once the army breaks, the casualty rates go up. Remember, I was looking and I was like, it was 2 to 1 at the end of the first day. And then partway through today, it was more like 3 to 2. Now it's getting closer to that 2 to 1 again, with 4 piles here and 2 and a few counters that, who knows. But yeah, so I think that's the whole thing, is that like the casualties rack up pretty even among units that are in good order. But as soon as forces start to collapse, the casualties start racking up at a higher value. Another factor that may have been included in that was the fragility of the guard. The small units disintegrating, and now more of the Russian-Prussian Guard, which had some smaller units. They actually have larger forces, larger units, I think, across the board for them. But also then just the calamity of these routes, extricating yourself. And they're not full head-on routes. I mean, everybody's not just running from the field, broken, destroyed, everything. No, it's messier than that. It's like there's a lot of disorganized units and a lot of units trying to cover a line, having to push to attack, to take defensive positions, to complement the other units in the line and fill in and everything like that. And the casualties just start weighing on you. And I think when I look at the counter mix, that's what I got. I had to do a count again, I guess. And moving Latour's cav across the stream, he's still not in a position where he can do any charges. So that's helping the Russians get away, to tell you the truth. And then over here, similarly, Peugeot had like one unit that could charge, maybe. I'd rather not expend a fatigue point on that. But good old Kellerman's still around, and he had crossed the stream already. So he launched a charge, created a couple of squares here, shifted, and started heading down here. Now, this led me to an interesting problem, which is, well, I can form square and then get hammered by the infantry, or I can rely on my cav to defend me. Well, I tried the latter, and neither one managed to make its morale check. Kellerman could have conceivably attacked the cav, but that looks bigger, I don't know, and will cause less damage. So I'm hitting the supposedly vulnerable infantry. We'll see how that works. Kellerman's units are a little chewed up, so I don't know. Victor took up his orders, and that means this whole flank is moving forward. Bad news for the coalition. While this continues with the fight, and Napoleon trying to rally some forces there. Marmont on his way down, he's not going to make it. Instead of just stayed there and rested. Not that he's particularly tired. He's done very little today. Over here, Suham is still trying to clear the space in front of Lindenau, put some pressure. It looks like the coalition isn't really attacking, so, yeah, they might have orders coming, or they might have an initiative or something, but I don't feel like this can do a whole hell of a lot if it slams into the flank. Over here, things are all quiet, except we got McDonald pushing into position and Nansuti. The way I look at things, the main fight tomorrow is going to be against the army of Silesia, because I'm hoping I will have destroyed the army of Bohemia more or less down here. Just looking at things. I'm a little worried here. If these guys regroup, they're going to be a dangerous force, and I may have to dispatch something down there. But on the other hand, Lindenau is kind of an interesting place in that even if lost, it's an ugly fight up from there. It's not something that I think I should have just bypassed it. The problem was I had 2 corps coming in from this direction. I'm like, okay, let's send York over there and maybe we'll be able to put enough pressure. Yeah, we wrecked the guard, man. All right, and I am getting the most tremendous headache right now. I had thoughts of going out, lots of thoughts, and I don't know what's happening. Just, wow. Maybe what I did at work and maybe some of the crap I'm eating, I don't know. 4:30, not a whole hell of a lot changing, of course, because there's not all that much fighting going on. But, you know, over here, this flank kind of collapsed. Some rallies going on. That's about it. After some major soul searching, I've made some decisions that change the coalition's plan here. Leaving the map did not work at all well. The penalties, being off map, not recovering the strength of your units, etc., is very, very ugly. And I'm pretty late in the day. I only have to last a couple more turns, and it's nighttime. And yeah, I don't fully recover or anything, but I think instead of trying to leave the map here, Schwarzenberg's running around giving some orders. Now, Hesse-Homburg, he had to leave. He was just shattered. And I don't know what I'm going to do with him. I may shift him over there or something. I don't know. But I'm giving orders to the guard. I gave Kleist his orders this time to pull back to here, let Wittgenstein hold this, and try to, well, actually no. Did I give orders? Am I giving orders to the guard? Yeah, I am. Yeah, because there's a fair number of Prussians in the guard still that are available. I think I'm going to send the guard over here and just try to hold a containment zone or whatever, so that I think Colorado comes in up here. That's going to complicate things. So, you know, if I pull out, bad stuff, I pretty much lose tomorrow. The disadvantage of not pulling out, though, is I could just pull out and stay off the map for another day, you know. Over here, I'm not changing anything. These guys are leaving the map. They may come back in here, or they may try to join the main force. And York is pulling back to there because over here, and now I didn't give any orders for the withdrawal. I'm just following the, hey, you're kind of allowed to fall back a little bit, whatever. But continuing to fall back would have probably required more orders than I have because we're not being pressed. That's one aspect on it. And also, there's just no reason. I'm not being pursued. Screw it. So I'm starting to throw up a defensive perimeter here as well. And I should be getting, you know, the St. Priest troops up there too. Maybe try to use them on a flanking maneuver. Bring York up around here as a reserve and let him try to recover. I don't know though, because what we may end up seeing is the coalition just saying, you know what, I don't want to take the offensive anywhere I don't have to. You know, if I have to launch an offensive this way to try to connect my troops or something like that, that's one thing. But if I've got a formation there, let the French come to me. Let them waste their energy if they want to defeat me before more of my troops come in. Anyway, that's the end of the movement. We had one cav charge happening over here, which generated some squares. Otherwise, cav were facing off and just staring each other down and stuff like that, which feels weird as hell, but you know, whatever. What makes it feel weird is the amount of territory the hexes represent in this is so large. You know, it's not a matter of them being 30 yards apart staring at each other. I don't remember, did they give the, you know, I'm not sure that they use the same size, the same scale everywhere. You would think they would. Whatever, it's not being spelled out. Oh, there it is. 250 meters, great. It's in metric. Yeah, so that's quite a bit of distance. And they could be significantly, I'm just doing rough calculations in my head, they could be significantly far apart when they're adjacent to each other, one hex to the other. So it's not as anomalous as it seems. In most other games, the hexes don't cover so much territory, so it's like, oh, that doesn't make sense. But here, I guess it kind of does, just because, you know, they haven't, the movement is so non-granular in this game. It's weird because the movement rates seem high, and the time for the turns are a half hour each. The movement rates seem about as high as they are in something like NBS, but I think the scale is significantly less than NBS. I'm not sure. Okay, things a little weird. First of all, I've forgotten to count the numbers for a while. Had to do a number of those, and we had some things break that, you know, could have happened a couple of turns ago. York, Austin Sacken, somewhere along the line, this is the one that really hits me. Poniatowski was fully broken. You know, maybe, I mean, he hasn't been involved in any heavy fire for a long time. So I don't know what's going on there. But that caused some issues where even undamaged units had to check. Actually, I think Hesse-Homburg's also fully broken. Again, maybe that would have affected something. I don't know. It's hard to keep track of this kind of thing. And this is part of the core rules. This isn't like the fatigue, which, you know, adds some numbers to the map and may add some funkiness, but it also addresses some problems. The army morale rules are in this case, core morale rules, are fundamental, and they are, you know, the base system by which you prevent attacks from going on forever and things getting too bloody. And it's serving that purpose, right? But what it's not really serving is the, oh shit, the morale broke and things fell apart at the worst possible time. So like, I don't know when Hesse-Homburgs went up there to the full break. I think they were probably out of it. But the York one, they've been engaging lightly. Austin Sacken, it probably happened during the retreat, so no big deal there. The Kellerman, again, probably no big deal. We're just getting some timing issues in there. But it is possible that if you don't count every damn turn, and, you know, again, going through 5 pages of these, counting every hit that you've taken and everything, it's a painful process. And it's not just the size of this game. I mean, that makes it much, much worse. But it's not just the fact that it's split up into corps or whatever. Even if it was all a single army number, it would still be very, very painful. The other thing that I'm thinking is, you know, I think I'm overly optimistic here. I saw how easily things cracked, how easily this line fell apart, whatever, that I was trying to hold to create a backdrop and everything. And I just don't think that I can hold until night. I mean, yes, it's only a couple of turns. Maybe if I keep falling back, but then come morning, I'm going to be pretty beaten up still. Probably not be able to refresh everything. So I'm, again, debating that whole issue. Do I want to just leave the fucking map? The problem is, what do I do if I leave the map? I've got forces over there that I could bring in here, or that I could go reinforce. But Colorado, if I'm not wrong, is coming in on the Altenburg Road. This is something the coalition would know. The French might not. Yeah. Colorado is coming in on Altenburg. So we're going to be coming in on here, and these guys want to shift over and get closer to the rest of the force, and maybe provide a push from this direction. I just don't know. I don't know that I can hold a line. You know, I'll still be on the map, but I don't think I'm going to be able to hold this line or anything that's a semblance of it against attacks by what are really Victor's fresh troops. Marmont's not going to get there in time. And the Guard that really I should not be abusing this way. I mean, even the Guard is collapsing on their attacks and whatnot. So, you know, that again, that's why the core demoralization and the fatigue and everything like that, that really inhibits any attempt to just, oh, I've got the advantage right now locally, I can just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. You can't, because you got to advance, you take fire, and you fall back. In this case, I'm trying to hold a line against stuff that was still there, and yeah, that just fell apart too. So I'm really left with, I mean, this was a rout, you know. Some troops came to stiffen it up, and the Guards are still pretty decent. But yeah, the Hesse-Homburg and Meervelt was the other guy who were chased off. And then Wittgenstein and Kleist are not in good shape. Remember, they've been marching back and forth and didn't get a chance to really rest as much as you would have liked. Now, that's the problem with going off map, is you don't get that rest, right? And I'm thinking, well, maybe that rest is more important or whatever. But I'm not sure. I think I'm just going to get destroyed. And I don't know what other options I have. So I'm left with a conundrum here with no good option. That's really what it comes out as. After movement on the French side of the 5 p.m. turn. Pressure continuing here. And now with Victor, why don't we move him, throwing his weight into the battle. Forgot to do something, got to do it. But I'll get to that, I hope. Somewhere, apparently not here. Over here, things have slowed down. The only thing we're dealing with is this one Prussian artillery there, which still has some bite and could do us some hurt, but and unfortunately we don't have orders to pursue. Ney is not sitting with anyone with such orders, and I kind of don't want to give up the town. I don't know what's up with the Austrians or the Prussians. They could turn and fight. I don't know what their orders are, and technically I'm still outnumbered. So I'm gonna leave my orders as they are. As soon as I clear the area around Lindenau, I'm good. We did have a cav charge by Sebastiani, if I recall correctly, is down there. Up here, the thing I forgot is Murat has to go talk to McDonald. Murat's very fast. Okay. Not using up all his movement even. So McDonald's troops are beginning to come around, and I want to give them orders to pursue. I'm going to launch an attack, try to gain some ground. It's something I had been holding off on, but now I got enough force that I think I can do it. Well, you know, I only have an hour after this. I don't know. Maybe I don't. Screw that. I don't have enough time for it. The problem is McDonald is so rested, but in that case, I will leave him here and use Murat for recovery. Nansuti's Cav coming up. We're going to have a fairly powerful force here to face the army of Silesia, which will be a new thing. That'll be starting tomorrow. Okay, so I guess nothing too exciting. And firepower has made it pretty damn clear that I can't hold the map here. I can't stay on the map. Overnight, I'll recover a few strength points or whatever. I'll recover my fatigue, but I'm in no position to handle Victor's corps, much less Marmont, who's coming down. It's just, I got to get off the map. Over here, not a lot happened, although the one Cav charge did break the Prussian Cav. Again, everything's so fucking fragile now. Basically nothing over there, except Murat failed to rally his unit. For the second turn in the row, Napoleon's failed to rally his. That's damn hard to do. Napoleon gives a +6 to his rally, right? But 7 -4 drops him to a 3. +6 gives me a 9. That's, you know, still unlikely. But you can see how battered these units are when Napoleon can't rally them. It's, yeah, it's pretty beaten up. Now that's Auguero. He's one of the units. He's still in the attack, but only because the enemy can't stand, you know. I move forward and I throw my skirmishers ahead and whatnot, and that way I'm not getting hurt. There's no chance for me to get hurt. It forces him back. I get some shots in, but not much. And we're probably not too far from these units getting so wrecked that they're in desperation morale, and at that point you just can't hold. I mistakenly was thinking, or I was thinking, clearly mistaken, but oh shit, is York in desperation morale? Because I know somebody is. If he had been, this unit that routed through would have caused, you know, everybody to make morale checks, which they basically can't succeed at. You know, we're talking about like a 3 or something for each unit. So all these disordered units would go running as well, and yeah, that's not a good thing. So that is the end for today. It's 6 o'clock. I could squeeze out another one or whatever, but I'm going dancing later. It's a Thursday, which means 2 days in a row of dancing plus maybe shopping on Sunday, which is that's about as intense as my life gets in terms of like leaving the house. Hey, you know, and I went for a walk yesterday too. Not a long one, but you know, so I'm doing better as the weather's getting better at like. I'll get used to the better weather and just not leave the house again. I lied. Oh, I'm starting the coalition half turn here. So something interesting happened. The only Cav charges were these Prussians. There was one of, and I'm trying to remember who. Pujol. One of Pujol's Cav sitting here. I began a charge with this one with the intent of trying to clear Pujol out, or at least tie him down. He countercharged. We each took a hit. He passed his morale check that was required. So then when I launched this charge, he got to countercharge that as well. So he blocked both of them, although losing both the Cav battles essentially. It's just the nature of it, and it's why, you know, keeping your Cav where it can react is so vital. It's like, yeah, this face-off, I may end up blowing this cav simply because it's not going to get a chance to get out of this firing range otherwise. It's going to take a fire when it blows, but it'll take 2 if it sits there. It'll take 1 this round and, well, 1 then when it leaves, which will be several rounds later. Yeah, so I definitely need to blow that. As we turn into this 5:30 turn, this is the last daylight turn. So, yeah, Marmont's not making it. McDonald's not making it. Nobody's getting an attack in. I thought there was another hour before this happened, but yeah, 6 p.m. is nighttime, late in the year. Okay. This is so far shaping up to feel like one of Napoleon's great victories. It really is. I mean, I've hammered this over a couple of days, and they keep coming back. And now the incursions over here have been stymied. They're not in the same shape as what's down there is, but they were definitely stopped. And, you know, it would be time to pack it up, except that, like, there's all this extra force there. One more day, or one more turn in the game before I load the video up, because there's still some disengagement going on as night falls. That's not going to happen today, but I might get it done tomorrow. All depends. All right. Okay, so this is the final turn before night, and 5:30 or whatever. I did the French half of it. Fatigued as hell because dancing last night. I'm like, oh, I can't waste a day that I can slip in this last turn or whatever, but I don't know if I'm going to get to the other half. I need to sleep again. Okay, so what did we have? Some pressure down here, chased some cav and whatnot in front of the guns, but then some long-range fire scared that away more. This nice flanking shot here didn't do much or anything. We got Marmont coming closer, but you know, it's going to be night. You don't want to go blundering around in the night. Over here we had a cav charge that went terribly wrong, in the sense that I got successes. I disordered the enemy cav, but took a casualty from it, which is, you know, a better result than casualty for casualty or whatever. And then I plowed into some infantry, which I didn't even route, and basically traded a second cav strength point, which was the last strength point on that unit. It only had 2 strength points. And for 2 infantry that, you know, if the Austrians weren't leaving the map, would be stuff that would be recoverable, whereas the unit that I lost is not. Which again, there's this, geez, it's not worth pursuing. You know? Like melee, there are things that this system does not reward that you think it should. Oh shit, I got another one here. Fuckies. Anyway, over here, just really moving McDonald and I don't even know his name. Our cav guard. Nansudi, yeah. Okay. Like it starts with an S, doesn't it now? But yeah, I've got this cav charge, which, again, could go terribly, but knocking out a gun is really valuable. Although those Russian guns are not like the French ones. The French guns, and the Russian guns are actually really poor quality. They have like 4 firepower, range 5. They're smaller units than like the Austrian and Prussian guns. So they throw less firepower, and essentially they can't cut through skirmishers. at as far a range, and they're just not able to stand up in quite the same way. But there's a lot of them, which means you can, build this huge battery, but it has less concentrated firepower, which is a weird sort of situation. But the French have, like, obviously the best of everything. All right. Easy turn, and the rest of them are going to be even easier for a while. So what do we got? We got the full route going on here. It's nighttime, so disengaging is easy, or it's just about nighttime. Granted, I had to take some fire, some withdrawal fire type things. I'm using the term from that was used in Terrible Swift Sword. I don't know if it's used here. But it's the same impact. Over here again, easily getting away. These guys heading there. The Prussians, wow. It's hard to believe. Like, they felt like they were a fairly effective force not long ago, and they're just destroyed in terms of, like, their morale. The force is still relatively there. It's in disorder, demoralization, but yeah, their morales aren't very high, and they're not terrible for the most part. There's some landfare in there, though. The Russians forming a little semicircle here. We'll be getting the Prussians to join them for whatever that's worth, but they're really not an effective fighting force. So I see this as being the only thing that's going to be on the map for the Austrian, or for the coalition, for a long time, because I'm gonna, first of all, I've got a trickle of stuff that would have come in the AM, and I'm not sure I even want to bring it in. Although there's advantages to being on the map, you can recover. It does signal a little bit more where I'd be coming in. I got to give some warning to the French, because they have scouts and some capability. They're not going to be completely surprised. They're not going to pop up out there without anybody knowing. But they also shouldn't have a hell of a lot of time to know precisely where they are. And again, I'm going to fudge and make things up for that. But yeah, everything else is going to leave the board except for what's up there. And most of it's not going to be able to come on until afternoon of the next day, if I want to. I think I probably do, and I think I probably want to try to seek out places where I can bring them on where they will not be slaughtered. So if I see what's likely a huge encampment of French here, well, I may want to shift in that direction. The problem with that, of course, is these guys are cut off from the rest of their army. And I don't know, here looks kind of safe, but this is hard to fight through. If I come in here, I'm facing the brunt of the army. And I just don't know what to do. Part of me says, hey, let these guys join the army of Silesia. It's the only reasonable thing. But I'm a little bothered by that. All right. That's the end of this video. The next one, again, I'll try to start with hey, what's happened so far in very, very broad terms. Like something along the lines of, well, on all 3 days, the French have driven the coalition off the board, basically. Yeah, this really, has all the markings of a massive French victory. The only thing holding it up is the coalition has such superiority in size.